Hi, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Mac here, and today we're in London at the Chelsea Flower Show. This is my second day at the show, and today we're going to tie it all together. We're going to go through the Grand Pavilion, and I want to show you the very best of what's inside the Grand Pavilion. So let's go enjoy the Chelsea Flower Show. As someone who has spent a lot of time at a lot of different flower shows, I can say that Chelsea is by far the most well-developed show that I've been at. I've been to the Heritage Show. I've been to a lot of other really phenomenal RHS shows even, but Chelsea is by far the best. There are designers here who are representing their nation states who came and set up designs, and you just don't get that at every other show. One of the designs that stood out to me the most was the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is representative of lava flow and rebirth. And I did a wonderful interview this morning with one of the designers.
Okay, so we have a volcano on the island that is very active. It erupted 2 years ago, and our exhibit is depicting the volcano. So you have the pyrolastic flow, the lava in the red that you see, and then the regeneration. After a volcanic eruption, then the life comes back, flowers are blooming again, so that's the concept.
I just love the coloration. I love the separation of the old and new. Even the fact that they brought in the leaves, which are dried out. They took silver gilt metal this year. So wonderful display here. Let's move on and see some other great displays. So when I first saw this, I thought it was a crib. And then I took a closer look and I realized it's the other end of life.
Yes.
But what is the meaning behind this particular?
We're a group of people that we're all flower growers or florists, and we're just trying to change people's views on what funeral flowers can be. There's no plastic involved, no waste. It can all biodegrade or some things are made in like glass jam jars and things that can be reused or given away at the end. So there's nothing to be left.
Oh, that's really
afterwards.
Wonderful. So here during my second day at the Chelsea Flower Show, we get the opportunity to walk through the David Austin floral design. This display is truly magnificent. David Austin is one of my favorite rose breeders, if not my absolute favorite rose breeder. Produces magnificent, wonderfully fragrant Old English roses. As I spoke with David Austin's staff this morning, they informed me that King Charles said personally that the first rose he ever grew was a striped rose. And so when David Austin's staff decided to develop a rose for King Charles, they knew it had to be a striped rose. And that's what we have here. The King's Rose, which is a beautiful semi-double rose. I spoke with the staff and I had questions about the arches, and they told me that they brought the arches down in two parts. And when they got to the show, they connected the arches to give you this one complete arch, but they're grown in two separate halves. Here's a magnificent display of tulips by Pheasant Acre Plants. I really enjoy these tulips. Look at this. Some of these are really large. I don't see any dwarf tulips here, but they have some really unique. The tulip Maryland, which is white with that red stripe in it, that is something that's unique. Green Wave is another tulip with that green. The petals are more green. And I've been really getting into flowers that have a lot of green in the petal as well. So just a wonderful design. This one tulip here, which Fire Wings, almost looks as though it's not even real, almost looks plastic. So it's a great tulip. I'm always impressed when I get to see more agapanthus. This is a lot of different displays of blooms. Agapanthus do primarily come in purple and white, but you could get some other color variants. You could get some variegation in there as well. But the blues are really nice. Agapanthus blue, that is a nice color. And then you just kind of move on around and you see just a beautiful selection. The whites stand out to me as well. Agapanthus is a beautiful plant. If you're in the U.S. and you're familiar with the daylilies, Hermicalis, Agapanthus has a similar foliage look, growth pattern. So it just is a great plant to add to your garden. And these are some great displays of what the blooms look like. And this is another design that really stood out to me. This is Bajans Love to Play from the Isle of Barbados. This team came together, and I don't know if I want to call it a team, but this group of horticulturists and florists And lovers and purveyors of flowers came together to produce an absolutely magnificent design. This is a gold-winning design, and I was informed that they won 24 golds here at Chelsea. But I was overly impressed by this design. I really thought that it was so unique. I love the fact that all of the coloration that is added into it, and then it just speaks so clearly to me about the fact that Bajans do indeed love to play. As I mentioned, this is a gold medal winning design, but one of the most impressive aspects of it is that they used orchids to shape dominoes. I see orchids and cacti, and you can see that as that domino is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this one's a 3. And the fact that they use orchids to shape dominoes really shows how they enjoy playing. But the fact that they could turn that into a floral display is very, very creative. And although I don't tend to personally grow a lot of vines, I am thoroughly impressed by this display of clematis. It shows the broad range of shapes and colors that clematis can come in. And if you do enjoy vines, clematis is a vine that you can add to your garden that won't necessarily take over the entire garden. They can be kept in check if you stay on top of it. But they have some beautiful clematis here. I think the reds really stand out to me. And of course, there's a lot of great displays of purple. Purple here with this yellow interior, that looks really wonderful. And that is Dana's Delight, clematis Dana's Delight. Acers are something you should absolutely consider if you want to add structure and a unique, colorful flair to your garden. Acers look good year-round. The color variance on the leaves just really stands out. You don't have to be in the fall to get these beautiful bronzy colors. However, acers do tend to be very slow growing, and that's been one of the problems I've always had with them, is that they're great additions, but you have to be really committed to the plant to maintain its conditions over the long haul for that acer to really grow and thrive and really provide that look that you may be wanting in your garden. It takes a bit of time to get there. If I had a favorite spring flower, it would absolutely be the peony, and you can see why. These beautiful blooms ranging from yellows, white, pink, coral, and all these magnificent colors in between. Yellows are one of my favorite colors in peonies. I do love this creamy color here. This salmon color is magnificent with that yellow interior. So the great thing about Chelsea is you can see all these beautiful flowers on display. And you can see all these different variety of peonies and make some selections for yourself. But there are other peonies that I want to show off a little later on in this video from a different breeder that are just as magnificent. This is a wonderful display of an English cottage garden. I love the fact that they have all these beautiful colors mixed in. I see dahlia, foxgloves, peonies, delphiniums, all the things you want to see in a cottage garden. Of course, I would love to see roses. That's the only flower that I don't see. A lot of these are spring blooming, and so the roses would carry the blooms across the entire season. But this is a magnificent display. The colors come together, pinks, yellows, a lot of purple and white. Now here's a display of mushrooms by Carly Brothers Mushrooms. And I don't necessarily think of mushrooms when I think of Chelsea or when I think of flowers, but mushrooms are the fruiting body of the fungi, so they fit right in with everything else that you have here at the show. I love the fact that it's something different, it's unique, it's colorful, and even if you don't think about adding mushrooms to your garden, mushrooms are going to be in your garden. They're there, and you could potentially cultivate them and add a little bit of something that you could eat into the garden, or just bring them in for color and texture. And here's a display of fruiting fruit trees by Frank Matthews Trees. And I don't know how they managed to get all these trees to be blooming all at the exact same time, but I'm seeing a lot of pears, apples, cherries, and a lot of plums. That's how you get to all these beautiful color combinations. And this is also going to give you beautiful blooms as well as fruit later on in the year. Frank Matthews Trees, they managed to pull off something pretty spectacular here, having all of these trees blooming all at the same time. One of my favorite vacations of all time was a trip to Cape Town, South Africa. And one of the reasons was because that Cape area in South Africa has some truly unique and magnificent flowers and plants. And some of them have been brought here to Chelsea. This is the Cape Floral Kingdom from South Africa. This is one of the largest and most impressive displays here. Most of the flowers on display are protea, and they are absolutely stunning. I have a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
So I've been down the Cape Peninsula, and I know there's some very unique conditions down there that allow these flowers to thrive. Can you grow them outside of South Africa? I mean, would they work somewhere else?
Only if you are in warmer temperatures, or maybe let's say you have what do we call a biome?
Okay, like a
control temperatures where you can grow them in an inner space where your temperatures can be controlled.
Okay.
I suppose they just don't like frost, they don't like snow, and then your temperatures must be a little bit warmer most of the time.
Okay.
Then you can.
This display, which incorporates some magnificently large hibiscums, really caught my eye and grabbed my attention because right next to them is Allium Universe. Look at the size of that, about the size of a nice soccer ball or a football if you're here outside of the United States. But in the U.S., it's about the size of a soccer ball. I'm looking for Globe Master, which I don't see. It's another beautiful allium, but Purple Sensation, look at the coloration on that, really beautiful. You can greatly see the colors as you put all of these alliums, purple alliums beside each other. You can see the difference in the vibrancy. You see why Purple Sensation is called Purple Sensation. The color really stands out. I spoke with the delphinium growers earlier today, and this particular variety, they told me how to stake it, which is basically build a cage around it below the blooming of the stalk. So below the area where the stalk blooms, build a kind of a cage with string around it, put a cage around four sides, string it up, and that will hold the plant upright and will stop it from falling over. Of course, they also may put over multiple heads. They did single heads on these, so it'll be great for display, but the plants don't automatically do single heads, they do multi-heads. And so this is a great plant you could add to your garden. I think I'm going to add something into my garden. I don't know about this year, but next year I may look to add some delphiniums. Daffodils continue to impress me with the wide variety of blooms that you can find within the family. I'm really impressed by what I see here. Apricot World, which has this beautiful apricot color. I don't think I've ever seen that daffodil before. Precocious is another that grabs my attention. Modern Art has a dark, frilly yellow interior that almost looks like an egg with a dark yellow interior and then lighter yellow on the outside. Although you're looking at the daffodils now, it's also getting close to the time of the year when you want to think about which daffodils do you want for next year. You plant them in the fall, but you want to start potentially buying some of them now. They may sell out over the summer. I picked up a brochure because some of those are absolutely magnificent, and I love to have in my garden next year. Here's some gladiolas, a gladioli from Pheasant Acre Plants. I love gladiola, but I tend to only grow the dwarf varieties because those don't need to be staked. These are tall and magnificent, but they were also grown under very controlled conditions. And in the garden, if you're not staking these heavily, they're going to fall over as soon as they bloom, especially if they get a bit of moisture on them from rain. But they're beautifully colored. And if you could get the heavier stem versions or the short dwarf versions, which also have a thicker stem, which is what I tend to go for, then you can add these colors to your garden as well. But if you want to stake them, you can add this tall varieties, Prince of Orange, it's a nice color. You can add these to your garden at any time. Kills Bay House of Gardens. This is something that stood out to me because you don't typically see these many fern trees and this selection and variety of fern trees. Some of these are really old because fern trees don't grow very fast, but they took up a lot of space here at Chelsea to bring out this wonderful display of ferns. Pinball Wizard here was a gold medal winning allium, but look at how dense those petals are packed in there, and I can see how and why that would win. Yes, Globe Master has been dethroned. You can see it is much smaller. Universe was larger, and a few others that I've seen are also larger than Globe Master. That's not very large compared to what the alliums are now producing. So Mount Everest with the white coloration still looks good. Hibiscums, those look good now. Always looking good because I grow a lot of these at home every year. I have a lot of them, and you can keep those year over year. Don't throw those bulbs out if you pick them up in the winter season, around the holiday season. Keep those bulbs year over year, and they'll continue to grow for you, continue to bloom every single year. Allium Ambassador, and again, more Pinball Wizard. Pinball Wizard, I just love how dense that is. You can't even see any space in between those blooms. To me, the UK has two premier rose breeders, and there may be others, but to me, it's David Austin and Peterbilt's. I've done tours of both of their floral gardens, and they are both magnificent. They're also magnificent breeders of wonderful flowers. And Peterbilt's tends to produce what you see a lot of here, which is a lot more purple. I see a lot of purple, but I don't see as many purple with David Austin roses. There were a couple of Peterbilt roses that really stood out to me, and I'm trying to wait for space to clear up so I can show them to you. One of them almost looks like the blooms are paper and not even really a flower. I just love those colorations so much. And here are the roses that I really want to show you, which is Hot Chocolate Floribunda from 2006. That's Hot Chocolate, that darker color. That is such a magnificent rose. And then Rachel's Joy has what I love with the Old English rose petals packed in on the interior there. Woburn Farm Plants has one of the most impressive displays of Alstramillo that I've ever seen. You have a nice dark color yellow, the creamy yellow, the burgundies, the reds, all the colors blended in here. These are these flowers at their very best. The Botanic Nursery brought in a magnificent display of foxgloves, all of them pastels, fading from white to purples, pinks, and all the creamy colors in between. I've always been a fan of bearded iris. This is a great display. You see the whites fading into golds, the purples, and even some nice burgundy colors there. The multicolors in the petals, these probably are reblooming. I'm not for sure, but reblooming bearded iris is absolutely the way to go. The perennials, also the plant can handle a bit of sogginess around its feet. You don't have to keep these in drier conditions. I have had them in dry conditions, but I've also kept them inside of some small ponds, and they did well inside of small ponds as well. So from dry conditions all the way to moisture, bearded irises are great additions to any garden. And here are the other peonies that I wanted to show. These are the Claire Austin peonies, and they just absolutely stand out to me. It's one of the most impressive flowers that I've ever seen as far as peony display. This coral sunset, look at that coloration on that, multi-petal, the stamen dark and yellow. It has a green interior as well. I love the fact that these almost look like paper cutouts because the blooms are so large. The petals are so large and blousy. They just unfurl and look really great. Here's a magnificent display by Blackmore and Langdon of begonias and delphiniums, two of their specialties, and you can see how they really produce magnificent begonias. Yellows, pinks, whites. These are bred specifically to produce these overly large blooms, but it does demonstrate the variety of color within the begonia family. And behind them, standing very tall and statuesque, are magnificent delphiniums, purples, whites, blues, lilacs, all of the magnificent colors that you can get with delphiniums. This is Sarah Handcliffe, the Wild Nest. I love the coloration, very peachy, very spring, very open and floral. And this is Elizabeth Newcomb, floral design, botanical bliss, a tapestry of texture. And there's a lot of texture blended in here. There are a lot of flowers, but I love the fact that she did use a lot of texture, but without adding it in with wood. She added the texture in just in blooms, flowers, and seed. And here we have an above ground with the trees on top, and below ground with the roots. And this is Humus by Wagner and Frieda. This art design, and I want to call it an art design because it is botanical art. It blends art, science, nature, and the installation reveals the power of unseen connections. Human blood vessels, sustaining life, roots, all coming together, working together. There's a thought process behind this, and the colors come together well. It makes me think of a beehive or an ant nest underground, but the interplay between the insects and the ants and nature all working together, reminiscent of how the human body operates. I think that is some of what the intent was from the creators, but I love the coloration, and it is truly artistic and unique. This display won a gold medal. It is RHS Chelsea Florist of the Year 2025. It is one of the best displays here. It is titled Seed, and it talks about interconnectedness, how all things come from the tile and comes from the very beginning, and it connects together. There's a great display of color. You can see the seed is splitting open with the color and life pouring out from in between the shells. Now here's a rose company that is new to me, Harkness Roses, www.roses.co.uk. I think they have the best rose website. But I'm not familiar with this company. I'm going to have to dig into it quite a bit more and find out more about it. I like the roses. They appear to be very open, loose petaled roses. I don't see many old English styles. I see some hybrid teas blended in. The colors are pale and peachy. I think if you like these colors and designs, they're wonderful roses to add to your garden. Some floribundas, hybrid teas, just great roses overall. I think I see a bit more hybrid teas than floribundas, but floribundas also mixed in. Semi-double petals, blooms, doubles. It's all kind of blended in together here, but a lot of peachy pale colors.
So our entire concept this year is to try and show the reality of UK waterways, sort of like that side. and then we can get them looking like this size.
Okay.
With the correct natural filtration plants that we have, and what we're trying to show is that compounds don't just sit there and look pretty. With the help of them, all our waterways can look like that.
Okay.
And our entire concept is just trying to show people that we can put natural filtration in and help our waterways.
After speaking to one of the developers of this particular display, I have a much better understanding of what I'm looking at now. This is a representation of the current state of the British waterway. There are irises in this. It does in some way appear to be beautiful, but you can see that there's a lot of sludge, there's plastic in the water, there's aluminum, there's pollution, and there's a juxtaposition of this is what it looks like now, which is not very beautiful beyond the irises and some of the grasses that are doing their best. But now let's take a look at what it can look like with the proper steps and procedures. And here's a representation of what the waterway can look like if it has the right steps taken to support the removal of pollution, the removal of nitrates, phosphates, petrochemicals, utilizing remedial measures such as putting in the right plants, reducing the amount of those chemicals that are being added to the waterways, removing plastics and heavy metals. It can be a situation where the marshes and waterways and wetlands can support more efficiently and effectively nature in its more natural state. This is a magnificent garden, gold medal winner here at Chelsea, and they only use what I would say is 3 colors: green, multiple shades of green, white with a creamy yellow. The very palest of yellow, more cream than yellow, but it is predominantly white. I see a bit of extremely pale lilac flowers here. That's Derek Cook geraniums. But to stick with that color theme, white, pale creamy yellow, repeated over and over again. Here's Hosta Patriot, has that white coloration on the variegation on the leaves. So they carry that theme throughout, massing together a magnificent garden that is extremely cohesive with the colors. The nation of Bahrain brought together a magnificent display with a lot of beautiful flowers centered around the national colors of red and white. Blending together roses and gladioli, both red and white, follows through with the color scheme that matches the national flag. The display also incorporates a lot of alliums, agapanthus, and beautiful white chrysanthemums. Denise Jones brought together a magnificent display of hand-woven willow, textured waves in motion. You can see the wave shapes and then the flowers coming up. At the tops, the blue, the caps of the waves. It is really a unique display, colorful and vibrant. It was exciting to see a true cornucopia of vegetables here. Eggplants, kale, tomatoes, corn, everything that you want to grow in the garden. That's a beautiful willow display, and these are magnificent woven willows. They're actually selling small versions and varieties of these willows that won't get any taller. They're going to stay about, well, look like right at a foot tall. I like the willows. The woven willows are really beautiful. This willow tree with multiple woven stems to create an umbrella, that is magnificent. These are the largest strawberry plants I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen strawberries this large. I'll see if I can find out a bit more about them.
It's proprietary to the grower.
Okay.
So it's not one that you can buy. We were just saying, a lot of people have asked, can we buy the plants? But no, it's their secret sauce.
It's their secret sauce.
It's like Coca-Cola.
I understand. I just never seen a strawberry plant that large before.
No, I know.
So unfortunately, we will not be able to add these strawberries to our own collection. They're proprietary But wow, those are some really large plants, really high producing, probably hybridized. I can understand why the grower want to keep that their secret sauce. It's a beautiful Corydalis. This is a beautiful blue color, blue China. I don't see blue very often, and I love it when I can see a blue flower. Delphiniums come in blue, but not many other plants actually bloom blue blooms. But these are beautiful sky blue, blue China. It's wonderful the way these different gardens at Chelsea invoke so many unique feelings within you. I feel as though I'm strolling through a park because of the flowers and the plants and trees and this massive obelisk, but it's all here inside of the Grand Pavilion, and it's all flowing together harmoniously. It's been a wonderful experience to explore the Chelsea Flower Show, the Grand Pavilion. Now in the next video, we're going to be exploring the grounds of the show. But in the meantime, drop down in the comments and tell me which part of the show so far that you've liked the most. Be sure to like and subscribe, follow along so you can see all of our experience here at the Chelsea Flower Show.